And now George Summers is in the studio with us to share his life in Xinjiang with us. Welcome to our studio, Summers. First of all, I'm very curious to know what first brought you to Xinjiang, to that part of the world.
Well, my wife and I, we moved out there as teachers in 2006, and we really had no idea what we were getting into. I mean, we'd never been to China, much less Central Asia, so it felt like a very remote part of the world for us.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And then why Xinjiang? Why do you eventually choose to stay there?
Well, I mean, we stayed there. I would say there's two reasons. The first is I really feel like, God has allowed my wife and I to really fit in with that type of environment. And that can't be said for everybody. We enjoy the culture, we enjoy the environment, and so that's kept us there. But also, I really enjoy the opportunity that I have to be able to introduce my home in Xinjiang to other people. Things like my writing, doing travel videos that I produce and publish, such as one I just recently did in Kashgar. You can take a look.
This is the heart of Uyghur culture, a beautiful cross-section of ancient Silk Road history. Welcome to Kashgar, the gateway to Central Asia here in China's remote western region of Xinjiang. I'm Josh, this is FarWestChina. Join me as we explore 6 of my favorite places to visit here in Kashgar. We'll start with the easiest, the Id-Ka Mosque. This yellow-tiled mosque is the largest in all of China and the most iconic building here in Kashgar. It's great to visit here during the Muslim holidays such as the end of Ramadan or the Korban festival, when tens upon thousands of Uyghur from all across Xinjiang converge on this mosque to worship. Kashgar's old city. Now, some may argue that this rebuilt city really isn't something worth seeing, but I disagree, and the reason is this. Yes, Kashgar's old city has been rebuilt, and it doesn't quite look the same as it used to. But the Uyghurs still live here, they still work, and the children still play in the streets, and really that's what gives Kashgar's old city life. Besides, if you really wanted to see the old city, what it was like before it was demolished and rebuilt, there's a small portion left on the east side of the city that you can walk through.
Oh, that's amazing, Josh. You also have a blog, which records your life in Xinjiang and the changes in the region as well. So, can you now share with us your observation of the changes in Xinjiang during the past decade?
Well, there's obviously the change in the security situation. When I first arrived, my wife and I arrived in 2006. We didn't have to go through metal detectors everywhere we went. There weren't travel restrictions. There weren't checkpoints everywhere we went. But that's the obvious change. There have been a lot more subtle changes, such as the change in transportation, for instance. When we first moved out, we were in a city called Karamai, which is a little bit remote. When we first, coming from Beijing, we had to transit in Urumqi and then take a 6 to 7 hour bus and taxi ride to get there. Now, you can fly direct from Beijing to Karamai, or there's even a train that goes from Urumqi there in about 3.5 hours. So those are the type of changes, I recognize that a lot of people, some people are happy with those changes, some people aren't happy with a lot of these changes, but these changes in transportation, in tourism infrastructure, in just the economy, those are the type of things you don't see unless you're living there.
Right, and the security situation, the unrest, and those are the focal points about Xinjiang in Western media, especially in recent years. Then, apart from that, little was actually introduced in the Western media to the outsiders. Then, as a foreigner living in Xinjiang, what do you think that the outsiders should know about the region and they may not know, not just yet?
Well, the biggest impression that I get has a lot to do with the hospitality. So for instance, my wife's parents have both been out to visit us, and that's probably one of the things that even travelers don't get to experience. It's only when you live there that you get to understand the hospitality of the people there. When my wife and I first moved to Urumqi, within hours of arriving in our new apartment, we had our neighbors knocking on the door, our Uyghur neighbors asking us to have us over for dinner. And so that's the hospitality that really impresses me most, and I wish that people could understand about Xinjiang.
Well, I'm informed that you speak fluent Mandarin and some Uyghur, and you've been there in Xinjiang for quite a long time now. We have a quite interesting name for foreigners who live in China for a long time and know much about the country. 中国通 in Chinese, the China hand in English. Do you think yourself one?
To call myself fluent would be an overstatement, and to call myself a China hand would also be, I feel like, just it's hard for me to do that. I've written one of the few guides that I know of about the region, the travel guides, and yet I still don't feel like I have a complete grasp on Xinjiang. It's anybody who's lived in China for an extended period of time is very cautious about, one, calling themselves an expert, or two, just making general statements about China or, for me, Xinjiang. And so I'm very careful about that. But one thing I do know, the longer that I live there, the more that I get to go deeper into Xinjiang, the more I realize that I have very little understanding, but that is what I really enjoy about it. And that to me is one of the things that helps me know that it's worth being there.
Well, you mentioned earlier at the beginning of our interview that you wanted to introduce your home to the people in Xinjiang, and through your blogs, I think many people can have more information about Xinjiang to know more about the region. So how would you assess your mission as a bridge between Xinjiang and the outside world?
I hope I get emails from people that are, that they say they appreciate just some of the information that I've provided that they couldn't have found anywhere else. I really enjoy the fact that I get to, do this business with FarWestChina. I get to lead biking expeditions through Altus expeditions in Xinjiang. That's the type of stuff that is keeping me there and really letting me enjoy my time.
Well, very briefly now, George, what are your future plans?
It's just that I have, continuing on with the businesses that I'm doing with Altus Expedition, hopefully trying to find a way to, change that into something that is more focused on the Chinese market as well. And for now, we're happy with where we're at, my family.
Good. Thank you very much, George Summers, for
you.
joining us in the studio, for sharing with us your life and experience in Xinjiang.